Machiavelli believed power is never equal. You either dominate or you are dominated. There's no safe middle, no gray zone where you can stay untouched. The man who avoids power games still ends up a pawn in them. And the truth is, the world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards domination. Visuals: a man kneels, chained and silent. Above him, another man sits, calm, watching, on a throne built from stone and silence. This is not about cruelty, it's about control. And if you want to survive in a world built on power, you need to understand one thing: domination starts in the mind. Why do some men walk into a room and instantly command respect, while others, no matter how kind, how skilled, stay invisible? Why do some rise to rule empires, while others can't even rule their own habits, their own home, their own mind? Machiavelli knew the answer, and it wasn't luck, it wasn't kindness, it wasn't balance. Life doesn't reward balance, it rewards dominance. Because power, real power, is a game of frames. Who sets the tone? Who defines the rules? Who leads? And who follows? And here's the part most men never realize. You don't have to be cruel to dominate. You just have to stop asking permission. So the question is, how do you stop being ruled and start becoming the ruler? That's what Machiavelli teaches us, and it starts with understanding 3 ruthless laws of domination. Machiavelli once watched the map of Italy bleed, not from one wound, but from 1,000 small cuts. Florence, Milan, Venice, Naples. Each city-state had pride, but not spine. They were caught between 2 giants, Spain and France, both hungry for conquest. And instead of banding together or choosing a powerful ally, they hesitated. They played neutral. They told themselves, if we stay out of it, they won't bother us. Let them fight. We'll stay peaceful. But Machiavelli saw what really happened. Those who refused to act, who chose comfort over clarity, were crushed first. Not just beaten, erased, used as pawns, looted, humiliated. Why? Because in war, the undecided become the battleground. And in life, the same law applies. Let's bring it to now. The modern man, you might not face swords and cannon fire, but you're surrounded by subtle invasions every day. Your time is invaded by people who don't respect your boundaries. Your mind is invaded by distractions, media, endless scrolling. Your energy is drained by people you're too afraid to say no to. Think about it. You say yes to things you don't believe in. You stay quiet when you should speak. You avoid conflict thinking it's peaceful. But all it does is put you in chains, because in this world, neutrality is a disguise for weakness. Let me give you a modern example. There's a man named Eli, mid-30s, smart, skilled, but soft. He had ideas, but never pitched them. He had boundaries, but never enforced them. He wanted a raise, but didn't ask. He thought, if I just keep being good, they'll notice me. You know what happened? They did notice him, as the guy who'll do the extra work without extra pay, as the guy who never says no, as the guy who gets passed over because he never grabs power. He waits for it to be handed. But power is never handed. Power is taken by those who are willing to dominate their own life before someone else does. And that's the hidden trap. Most men think if they avoid conflict, they'll be safe. But Machiavelli knew better. If you don't claim your ground, the world will claim it for you. So what does this mean for you? It means stop playing the nice guy in a game that doesn't reward it. It means if you're not making decisions, someone else is. About your life, it starts with small things, setting clear boundaries, speaking your truth even if it shakes the room, saying no and meaning it, choosing your path not the one others choose for you. Because domination doesn't always look like war. Sometimes it looks like a quiet man who never speaks up. And that is how chains are forged. Not in fire, but in silence. There's a moment in history that defines ruthless clarity like no other. Cesare Borgia, the son of a pope, and the man Machiavelli feared and admired most. He had just taken control of a rebellious region in Italy. The people were wild, the nobles defied him, the soldiers were split in loyalty. So what did Cesare do? He appointed a cruel, violent enforcer named Ramiro de Orco. Let him do all the dirty work, the beatings, the public executions, the displays of raw fear. Order was restored, quickly. People feared Cesare's authority, but then, when stability returned, Cesare had Ramiro killed, publicly, brutally, his body left in the town square, sliced in half. And the message was clear: chaos is punished, order is protected, loyalty is rewarded, no confusion, no negotiation, no gray area. Machiavelli watched in awe. He said this was one of the most brilliant displays of leadership he'd ever seen, because Cesare didn't care about being liked. He cared about being remembered, feared, and respected. Now come back to today, to your office, your startup, your family, your life. There's a modern Cesare Borgia in every boardroom, and a modern Ramiro too. Let me tell you about Nathan. He started his company with his best friends. He wanted to be the cool boss, flexible hours, no pressure. Everyone's voice mattered. You know what happened? Deadlines slipped, productivity crashed, resentment built, even though he was trying to be fair. Then came the investors. They wanted results, fast. And Nathan realized being liked had cost him control. So he changed, fired the underperformers, cut out the emotional slack, brought in military-level precision. He stopped seeking friendship and started enforcing standards. He went from bro to boss. Now, his team respects him, his investors trust him, and his company, it's growing fast. You see, fairness sounds noble, but Machiavelli warned, it is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. The boy wants to be liked. He avoids confrontation. He softens his voice. He asks instead of commands. But the man doesn't need approval. He demands results. He understands something deeper. Fear creates clarity. Clarity creates order, and order leads to power. Let me say it bluntly. Being nice is not a strategy. It's a costume, and the world sees through it. So what does that mean for you? It means the next time you hesitate to set a boundary, ask yourself, do I want to be liked or respected? Because if you're always trying to be fair to everyone, you'll eventually be unfair to yourself. The truth is, domination isn't about shouting. It's not about being the loudest voice or the strongest man in the room. It's about controlling what others see when they look at you. Not who you really are, but who they believe you are. Because once you shape that belief, once you own that perception, you control their actions without ever lifting a sword. A man who seems powerful is powerful. A man who appears unshakable becomes unchallenged. Machiavelli understood this. He said, people judge by what they see, not what you truly are. And he was right. Look around. Leaders rise on image. CEOs earn billions on presence. Influencers pull masses on illusion. Perception is the modern sword. So if they see you as dominant, you don't have to prove anything. You've already won. You become the puppet master, and the world dances on strings they don't even realize exist. That's the cold truth, and it's why those who master how they are seen eventually master everything else. Let me tell you something most people never realize. Power isn't just about force, it's about framing, and the one who sets the frame sets the outcome. You can be stronger, smarter, even more talented. But if someone else defines the game, you will lose. That's what Napoleon understood better than anyone. He faced enemies with more soldiers, more money, more supplies. But Napoleon didn't fight on their terms. He forced them to fight his way. He chose the terrain. He controlled the timing. He decided when the first shot would be fired. And that's how he destroyed larger armies, not through brute strength, but through tactical framing. He turned chaos into a stage, and every battle became his script. Now fast forward. Let's say you walk into a meeting. You're pitching your idea. The other side has the money, the title, the leverage. You're nervous. You start with, "Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity." You've already lost because you're playing by their rules. Now compare that to a man who walks in with calm dominance. He says, "Before we begin, I'd like to propose the structure for this discussion. 3 key points, 20 minutes, and clear next steps." And just like that, he owns the frame. He doesn't need to overpower them. He simply positions himself as the one who directs the game. Let me give you a real-world example. There was a young startup founder named Marcus. He had a revolutionary product, but no funding. He got a meeting with a big venture capital firm. Everyone told him, "Be humble, be grateful, don't push too hard." But Marcus didn't follow that script. He created his own. He walked in, handed them a one-pager, said, "Here's what I've built. Here's where we're going. You're either the first to believe in this, or you're the ones who regret missing it." He didn't ask for validation. He defined the conversation. And you know what? He got the investment, not because they were convinced by numbers, but because they were drawn to conviction. Because when you control the narrative, you become the gravity in the room. Machiavelli said, "He who initiates war must control the terrain." In modern life, that means you set the terms. You choose the battlefield. You decide what the game is before the other person even knows they're playing. Let this sink in. The dominator doesn't react. He decides. He writes the rules. He bends perception. And the world plays catch-up. So the next time you're in a room, a pitch, a negotiation, even a relationship, ask yourself, who is controlling the frame? Because that person, that's the one who holds the power. Imagine this. You walk into a room. You don't say a word, but people turn, heads lift. Silence follows you like a shadow. Not because you begged for attention, not because you yelled to be heard, but because your presence says one thing. This man commands himself. And when you can command yourself, you don't need permission to command the room. That's real dominance. It's not about control through fear alone. It's about stillness that makes others uneasy. It's the quiet certainty in your eyes that says, "I know who I am, and I know what I'll take." You don't need to be loud. You need to be aligned, disciplined, unbothered. That's what Machiavelli understood, and that's what most men will never realize. They chase attention, but the powerful, they attract it. Because in a world full of noise, silence is strength, and presence is power. Dominate perception, dominate respect, dominate life. From now on, you either dominate or get dominated. There is no middle ground. And if you want to keep that power, learn the next weapon: silence. It speaks louder than noise ever could.